journey for spiritual evolution. I'm so glad you're here. This channel is born from my love of Bible study. I love reading the Bible and dissecting it. It's a space where friends, family, and I will come together to explore the Word. Now, full transparency, I'm not a theologian. I did not go to school or get a degree in theology. So I'm just someone who is seeking to grow and learn more in my free time. So if you ever have a different perspective or want to share something, I'd love for you to kindly add it in the comments below. Kindly, please add it in the comments. So I hope we can lead with love and embrace this journey together. Like I said, my goal is to evolve, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoy creating it. Now, I've also created Bible study journals to help guide your own journey. It's called Bible Study Workbook, so Sessions. So it has places for you to take your notes, places for you to illustrate as you are learning, and we have some thinking routines down here. So please, please, please buy this if you are wanting a good journal to go along. Okay, I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for watching. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today on another episode of Soul Sessions.
Yep.
I'm here with my brother, Jaden.
What's good, y'all? What's good?
Thanks for joining me today, Jaden.
Of course, of course.
So we're going to be talking about Nehemiah.
Yep.
Have you ever studied Nehemiah before?
I've read the book before. I haven't studied it. So yeah, that's basically my entire thing about Nehemiah. I think it's a forgettable book. One time I turned there and I was like, it took me a second because I was like, Nehemiah's a book in the Bible, and then I was like, oh yeah,
I don't think
I
I've
remember
ever
what it's about
studied
now.
him at
So,
all.
yeah.
I don't even remember learning about him. So this was news
Really?
to me. But we're only today doing chapters 1 through 6.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay.
And then we'll just kind of go through the verses, and then we'll discuss. Let's see, is it coming up?
Okay. Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so first question is, who is Nehemiah? So I really like how the book is written from his point of view. Did you like that?
Yes, I that's one of the things I wrote down because it's interesting to see how Nehemiah talks about himself. So yeah, just seeing that and how he talks about himself and others. He's very direct. He's very straightforward. So it's really interesting because I think it's kind of funny at times. So
me too.
Yeah.
I love that because I'm trying to think. I don't know of many books of the Bible that's written like first person perspective. It's usually someone else telling the story. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
So we learned that he's a cupbearer. And so, in our book here, that was one of the words I put down to just know more about. And from esv.org, it said a cupbearer kind of sounds like it would be a low position, but it's actually a high office position because the cupbearer's job was to taste the wine brought to the king in case it was poison.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, wow, that's a really interesting job to have. How did he get that job? Did he like that job? I wouldn't want to be a cupbearer at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was very interesting. Can I share the thing I wrote down for vocab word?
Yeah.
So I did Chislev. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, but that's the month that he talks about this stuff taking place in, or Chislu, not Chislev, Chislu.
Oh.
And I learned that's the 9th month, which is November through December, essentially. So this is around winter time. Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder what their weather was like then. So this takes place in Iran, right? In Israel?
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of weather they have. Do they have a winter?
I think I searched it up one time being curious, and I think sometimes they may have snow.
Okay.
Although I think it's very rare that they have snow. So
okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you looked that up because I didn't know what that was either.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
okay, so let's go to chapter one. So chapter one, I put a map because I always like to know where the story's taking place. So
yeah,
he's in Iran, which is over here, and then towards the right, and then Israel is, over there in the left side, closer to Egypt. So he's
yeah.
kind of far from where Israel is. Because it said Persian city, and so I was like, well, where is that today? And today that's Iran.
Yeah, yeah.
So he gets news about, things being hard in Jerusalem, about the walls of the city being broken down. Um, and then how he responds. What do you think about how he responds in chapter one to all of this going on? Did you write
I
it
really
down?
I really like his like repentant type prayer that he does. I drew the picture, if I can show the picture I have, if you could see it.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a picture of Nehemiah. The other ones are very sloppy. This is this one's kind of sloppy too, but yeah, that's the picture I drew. And the word I had for that was repentance. And you can tell that Nehemiah actually cares about his people and
Hmm.
that he wants these things to be reconciled and he wants this wall to be built. And he's like, God, please remember how you brought us out of this prior situation and do that again. So his faith is very admirable in this situation. And I just love how he immediately goes straight to God with what he wants. So yeah,
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. I said it's interesting when he hears bad news, he goes to God in prayer. And
yeah,
I just thought about a lot of times if I hear bad news or something, I start to worry. And so I
yeah.
wrote that down like, okay, whenever you hear something, you need to go to God in prayer. And I just love how he did that immediately and he fasted too. So I thought that was really interesting. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good.
Okay, so then in chapter two, he's sad. He goes to the king and he's taking the king his wine. And the king's like, man, why you sad?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to see like the dynamic between them, those
Yeah.
two. He
And
has respect for him. The king
he
has
does.
respect.
He does. Because he knows, like, I don't know, you would have to respect somebody who does that job. It's kind of like the Secret Service almost. Like,
Yeah.
they're literally signing up to die for you if something happens. And so just
For real.
nothing but respect for that job. And so, yeah, he tells the king um about what's happening, and he asks him if he can go to Jerusalem and rebuild the wall, and he also asked him to like write him some letters, so that he can be safe when he goes, and that they'll know that like he's okay with him going.
Exactly.
What do you think about this chapter? Did you have any notes for chapter two?
Well, my illustration, I had Nehemiah and the other guy like he brought with him looking at the burnt wall. And I'll show you the illustration that I did here.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the looking at the burnt wall. And for the word I had was favor, and the symbol was wine, because
Mm.
Jeremiah found favor being the cupbearer in the eyes of King Artaxerxes. So I thought that was a really important symbol there.
That's so crazy because right here on verse 4 to 8, we have the king's favor. I wrote the
Yeah,
king.
yeah, exactly. It's an important word.
Yeah, so he really did have um, the king's favor in having that job. And I also put courage. He had a lot of courage to
Mm,
leave what he knew to go and go back home and try to rebuild on his own. I thought that was a lot of courage he showed.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we
And
continue in chapter two with him going to Jerusalem and inspecting the walls. And he is like, wow, I'm not gonna share my plans with anyone. But then in the morning, he tells the priests, the nobles, the officials, and he tells everybody. He gets them like excited about rebuilding the wall.
yeah, it's for like my notes that I put for like kings in the Bible, and this kind of goes back to what we said earlier, is how God uses pagan kings and oftentimes in these stories gives Jews like supplies and people in order to go back to their homeland and like be, what's the word, in order to like rebuild, like they respect him for that. Like you see it with Daniel, you
Hmm.
see it with others. So I think that's interesting. And I like how they're all excited to come back. And you
Yeah,
see later in the story, not everybody in the area is excited, but it's interesting.
yeah. And so then he finds out that he's got some people against him, of course, that mocked him, ridiculed him, and they were like, "You don't have no right or claim to this land." And when I was reading, I saw the word. It said, I think it's derision, is what it said in the Bible. And when I looked
Mhm.
that up, that meant ridicule or mockery. So I learned a new word there from from that chapter. So yeah, he had some opposition, of course. Did you have anything
Yeah.
like that?
Just how God like gives like these people like Nehemiah the ability to still have courage even when they like face this derision or whatever you would call it. Like Nehemiah, even on the land. And there's a bunch of haters in
Hmm.
this story. Like every person around the land just disliked Nehemiah and his guts for some reason. And that was one of my questions in like the later chapters. I was like, why does everybody just want
Just hate.
not to see
Yeah.
these people succeed? But it's interesting to see like Nehemiah and even in his own book talk about this. Like I answered them and said, we will prosper. It says the God in verse 20, it says, the God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore, we his servants will arise and build, but ye have no portion, no right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. So he's like, you have no right to tell us what to do with our land. And I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah. I love that. That's a good note. Okay. So chapter 3 was really just showing kind of just who came together. It was just literally a long list of everybody who worked side by side. I just thought
Yeah.
that's basically to me what chapter 3 was. Did you have anything about that or just
I had a vocabulary word, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but
yeah?
it's apothecaries.
Oh wow,
Apothecary.
I didn't know that one. Okay, what's that?
Yeah, I was reading the KJV, so maybe it's just an old word, but it's somebody who makes the medicine in the area.
Oh
And one of the builders was described as like the son of like an apothecary or one of the apothecaries. So I was like, oh, so like everybody's included in this. You got different types of people, even like doctors' sons are coming back to help like the community. So yeah, this one it was really interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just
just to
love
see
that
like
chapter. Everybody just literally showed everybody their position, no matter what they were doing, they all came.
yeah, exactly.
So then we get to chapter 4, where um again he's got his enemy Sam. I don't know how you say this man's name, Sambalat, but he's the
Yeah, I
biggest
think it's Sanbo. I think it is. Yeah, Sambalat. I don't know. I
Sambalat
don't.
and Tobiah.
Yeah, and Tobiah. Yeah,
They're the worst ones. So they want to create doubt and fear among the Jews. Um, and then instead of retaliating, like you said, Nehemiah turns to prayer, asking for God to hear the prayers. And again, I just think that was really interesting how no matter no matter what is going on when things are difficult, he always just goes to prayer. I just
yeah.
love that he does that.
And his prayer was honest too. He was like, I like how you have it the prayer of justice. He was like, these people are hating on me, God, for no reason, and don't let them succeed at all, because they're
Do you have the
stopping
verse
the work.
pulled up there? Can you read verse 4? Because for some reason I have chapter 4, verse 4. Like he was I wrote down, was he wishing bad on them? Do you have that verse?
Yeah, I have verse 4 right here. It says, "Hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity." And I love verse 5 too. And cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out before thee, for they have provoked thee to anger before the builders. So he's like, don't help them at all. Don't show them any mercy.
Yeah. So I'm
He
like,
was
man,
not dealing with these people.
his
Yeah.
prayers are so real. And I,
Yeah.
not that I'm scared to pray that way, but I tend to not pray that way. But it's so interesting to see him pray like, yeah, and don't help them, Lord. Yeah, Lord, and
Yeah.
like, don't forget what they did.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah. Low key. It be like that sometimes. You know, because he knows that vengeance belongs to the Lord. You know what I mean? So he's like, if vengeance belongs to God, then I might as well ask him for vengeance to be done or whatnot. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, like I've never prayed that way, so I really enjoy reading that. Like, okay, you can be honest. You can really say how you feel. So I love that he did that.
Yeah. It's cool to say how you feel in front of God, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then, verse 6, like we said, despite all the opposition, he was determined to keep going. And then Sanballat, Tobiah were getting really upset that like, how dare they keep going?
Yeah.
Like they were really upset about that, and um, they started to make threats, and so he put guards along the wall. Um, and so he was trying to be encouraging. He was trying to like make sure that they were safe. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that was a really good idea for him to put guards at the wall.
Yeah, and I even made a little illustration of a guard at the wall, like a big beard or something.
Oh wow, your illustrations are so good.
Yeah, I was like, I really like the drawing part because I was like, I like drawing, so I'm gonna just
Yeah,
that's where
I
I'll put my
I draw
effort.
too sometimes, just
Yeah.
to sketch, but I didn't draw one for this one. I drew a little wall later. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, they kept going. And so then we see that a great protest started to. So Tobiah and Sambalot were starting to get into some people's heads. Um,
Yeah.
and so one of the first reasons that they started to protest is they were like, "Oh, we have big families, and we just need food to survive." So the drought or drought famine was one of the reasons. And I was trying to figure out like how can we relate this to the struggle we face today in America? The protests of people like not wanting to help others because of like being like, well, in my house, I don't have this, or in my house, we're going through this. And so it's hard for people sometimes to want to keep going and help others.
Yeah. And it was interesting too when it came to the drought and whatnot, and how he said he was angry with this, and he got mad at the nobles
Hmm.
for like usury upon these people because they couldn't eat and yet they were still getting like taxed like crazy and they couldn't like support their families and stuff. And how I related that to America was because I was thinking about this like politically and whatnot,
Hmm.
is how a lot of people like that are really wealthy or really rich like dodge and avoid their taxes, and it just hurts more people at the bottom who are already struggling.
Oh yeah,
And
that's a good way to see it. Yeah.
yeah, because they're not paying their fair share. So I related it to that. Like Nehemiah was like, hey, you, I get like taxation and whatnot, but you can't just increase these rates and jack them up when we're already in a terrible situation with this drought. So I
Yeah.
saw that as very noble of Nehemiah to be like, hey, we can't be doing this to these people.
I like your interpretation better than mine. That was really good.
Really?
So the
Interesting.
next reason for the protest, they said, and others said, we have to borrow money on our fields and vineyard to pay for our taxes. So, like you said, they were like, oh, our taxes is too high. And so, like you said, that's how a lot of problems today in America of like, hey, we can't pay our taxes. Like,
Yeah, for real. It's
and the next
crazy.
reason they said is they said, look, we're the same flesh and blood as our brothers here. Our children are just as good as theirs. Yet here we are having to sell our children off as slaves. Some of our
Yeah,
daughters have already been sold, and we can't do anything about it because our fields and vineyards are owned by someone else. So,
yeah.
how do you relate that to today?
Oh, that's difficult because slavery is not legal in America, at least in that sense. But maybe a way you could relate it, and this is more like with with I guess people who like farm in the South, or people who are very poor and maybe immigrant families, or poor people in general, having to raise up their kids to grow up too fast and to sell them to not necessarily other people, but to companies,
Mm-hmm.
or even to just work itself, and have to slave them away very young because they have to put food on the table somehow. And maybe all the things in life aren't there yet. So they have to start working really young. And it's like, well, we are the same people as you.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we take care of each other? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not even like racially, but like as Americans in general, where we all live in this country, we're all trying to work together. And when we can't take care of each other, then like, what do we have other than us, you know?
Right.
So
That's
maybe,
exactly how I was thinking about it. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, we don't have slavery, but we do have kids and families that, yeah, are trying to work way too young or feeling
yeah,
that pressure of struggling way too young.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
in the midst of all this opposition, this is when they needed a godly leader. And so I thought, how does Nehemiah react to this protest? Like how he reacted was so like admirable and very godly. So in verse 6, he says, I got really angry when I heard their protests and complaints. And so when I first read that, I'm like, what? Was he angry at them or angry at the injustice? Did you think that when you first read that part?
No, I was definitely like, okay, I think he's angry at the nobles and stuff, the higher ups. Yeah, maybe it's just my translation, but yeah, I was like, man,
Yeah, so you're right. He was angry at the injustices, not really the people who were protesting. He was more angry at the injustices. Um,
yeah,
and the Bible says that he thought it over, which shows he had self control. Um, and then I was thinking, in the midst of all these things that's going on in America, do we practice self control so that we can use everything in a constructive way, or do we lash out? And I feel like a lot of times we lash out instead of
yeah.
self control.
Yeah, and it's not like these people, excuse me, it's not like these people that may be part of the issue and maybe don't understand the struggle. It's not that they're trying to be rude. It's just that sometimes they're ignorant. So I appreciate Nehemiah for like restraining himself. He still goes out at them, but it's out of like a place of love for these people. And it reminded me how God is with us sometimes, you know? Sometimes when we do wrong to people, God gets angry, but then he has mercy on us and says, look, you can't be doing this to
Yeah.
other people. And so it was very godly of him. Reminded me of how God like worked with people in the Old Testament, saying, I'm angry, but I'm trying to work with you type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So how did the people respond? Let's read verse 7 and 8 together. Do you have 7 and 8 pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want me to read both of them or just seven?
Yeah, read 7 and 8.
Okay. I'm reading from the KJV, by the way.
Okay.
I consulted with myself, and I rebuked the nobles and the rulers, and said unto them, Ye exact usury, every one of his brother. And I set a great assembly against them. And I said unto them, we after our ability, excuse me, have redeemed our brethren the Jews, which were sold unto the heathen. And will ye even sell your brethren? Or shall ye be sold unto us? Then held they their peace, and found nothing to answer.
So when he confronted
Yeah.
them, they were silent.
Yeah. They felt that conviction. They're like, ooh.
Yeah,
They
they
got
really
nothing to say.
they had nothing to say. So I think he gathered them very nicely.
Yeah. In those short few words, which I like. He's very direct, Nehemiah. Yeah.
um, so yeah, the officials and nobles agreed to Nehemiah's demand and promised to give everything back. And Nehemiah invoked a covenant curse on anyone who failed to uphold this promise, and the people responded affirmatively.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to read 11 and 12? It says 11 and 12.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Restore, I pray you, to them, even this day, their lands, their vineyards, their olive yards, and their houses, also the hundredth part of the money, and the corn, the wine, and the oil that ye exact of them. Then said they, we will restore them, and will require nothing of them. So we will do as thou sayest. Then I called the priest, and took an oath of them, that they should do according to this promise.
All right.
That's
So,
12, yeah.
did you read 12? That was 12 too?
Yeah, that was 12 too, yeah.
Okay. So, I just was saying that when God shows us like what we're guilty of, kind of like what Nehemiah did, like he wants us to take action immediately. Like he doesn't want us to, take our time and figure out like they made a plan immediately and they changed what was wrong immediately when they realized when Nehemiah told them like what y'all are doing is messed up. So
Yeah.
um I think that's good. Like sometimes I don't know, we feel like I don't know if we feel like we got a lot of time or what, but sometimes we'll take our time in changing.
Yeah, it's true. We get in the way of God's plan and not even realize it sometimes, you know?
Hmm.
So Nehemiah had to tell him.
All right, so we're gonna end with chapter 6. So let's see, chapter 6. We got Sambalat, whatever his name is, Tobiah,
Yeah.
Geshem. They're like, oh my God, he's really rebuilding this wall. And so now they're trying to trick him.
Yeah.
They try to trick him 4 times. So they send him a note. He's like, no. Like
Yeah.
4 times. What did you think about that?
I thought it was really funny because like like it was really hilarious to me because they were like trying to say, yeah, come over here and meet with us. So we
Yeah,
can just chat with you, even though they wanted to like murder him. And
yeah,
then he responds with, why I have to stay here so I can work. Why can't I just send like one of my messengers to you? And then
yeah.
they keep, like it's like spam calling him or keep like texting him. And he's just like leaving them on red and stuff. So it's really funny because he's like he's not having any of it.
No,
He's
that's
like, no.
so true. They're like, come, we just want to talk. And he's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really funny. Yeah, yeah. It's
So
interesting.
then after doing that, they're like, all right, y'all, he's not gonna come. So then they send him a letter like, look, we know what you're trying to do. We know that you're trying to build this wall and build all this so that you can rebel against the king.
Yeah.
And then Nehemiah's like, stop, you're lying. Like literally
Yeah.
that's what he said.
Yeah, he's like, I never said any of that. What are you talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like entertain it, which I love. Like that's how I want to be. Like if anybody come with me with some that's false or just I know for a fact it's not true, literally
Yeah.
just like no and just go on. You don't have to entertain the foolery.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of reminded me of like what Satan tries to do with us when he tries to tell us lies. And like in this example, Sambalat would be like Satan and Nehemiah would be like a believer. When Satan tries to come attack you with stuff, you just don't even try to entertain it. You just like, nope, that's not true. What you're saying is a lie. I don't trust you. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that.
I
Yeah.
love how he did that. Okay.
Yeah.
Then um oh, and this was so good. This whole verse 10 through 14 was so good because they were like, okay, we can't get you outside. Let's get him inside. So they get someone from within the walls, and the guy Shemaiah is like, hey Nehemiah, come up in the temple. Just come up in here and did he tell him we could pray in here? He told him, oh, he could hide. He was like, you could come in here and
Yeah.
hide from them in the temple. And then Nehemiah's like, I'm not supposed to go in the temple in there. So, like, I know that you're trying to set me up too.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody, like people were just getting inside and everything, and that's because he said the doors weren't built yet, so people could come in and whatnot. But everybody was like, even his own people, he could trust. They're like, yeah, come to your religious place to worship, so we can even try to kill you and whatnot. And this is
Yeah. So it's
insane.
like sometimes if the devil or Satan can't get you from outside, he's gonna try to get you from within, either your friends, your family, people that you're
Yeah,
close with, that's gonna seem like they're trying to help you.
but they ain't.
But so
Nah,
when I read that,
exactly.
I'm like, oh my God, that was so good. And what did he do? He prayed.
Yep. He went straight to praying again. Nehemiah was a prayer warrior. That's all he did. He was like, I gotta pray about this. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
So
Yeah,
I just really love that about him. Like whenever anything happened, he prayed. Okay.
yeah,
Then at the end, they complete the wall. They complete it in record time. His enemies lose heart. They recognize like, dang, this guy is really working with God. Like they just had to accept it for a little bit. Like
yeah, yeah.
this is who he is.
Exactly. Yeah,
So that's how it ended with chapter 6. Um, so in there, we do a color, a symbol, and an image
yeah.
to wrap up. What color did you pick to wrap up Nehemiah?
Well, I didn't really color the color. I wrote it down.
Okay.
I said the color was black
Oh,
because
okay.
I and the word was fear, and I think those go together. And the symbol was like a letter, and the image was just like this thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this symbol was a letter because it was all about like mail this chapter and stuff and messages being sent. But I picked black and like fear because this time of like Nehemiah's what you call it, his building of the wall, like it was a very like untrustworthy time for him, and a time where everybody was trying to put him in fear and lie to him and just try to take him down. So that's why I put darkness, but or like black as the color. And but yeah, that's how I wrapped up Nehemiah. I had happier colors earlier, but this one was just black. So yeah.
So my overall color for Nehemiah would be purple because when I think about him, I think about like royalty, elegance. I think about like a true connection with God. So that's why I picked purple.
Oh,
And
interesting.
my word is prayer because when I think about Nehemiah now, I'll just think of prayer. Like pray,
Yeah.
pray, pray, because that's who he was. And then my symbol, I chose a wall because that's something he really worked to build, no matter what was the wall.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff from this book.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed you having the conversation and the study with me of Nehemiah.
Yeah, of course, of course. Always a pleasure. I like this book a lot. It was really fun. I like the little parts and compartments you could do. So, especially the illustration. That was like my favorite part. So,
Yay.
yeah.
Well,
It was
hopefully
really,
you'll come back on another episode.
I would
Hopefully
love
you
to.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Howdy.
So I hope you enjoyed listening to my brother Jaden and I dissect the first 6 chapters of Nehemiah. He was definitely an interesting person to get to know. So for my instant hit, the instant classic for today is Big Big God by Craig Meisel, I believe that's how you say, and The Collective. I play this song every day, so many times a day. I really love this song. So if you're looking for a new song to get into, I would try Big Big God. Until next time, see ya.